wherever you seek the edge of experience, you're likely to find adventurous spirits eager to go their own way. And you'll find them here, at the extreme western edge of the North American continent. From the Spanish pioneers who risked all to build a 300-mile chain of missions in the name of faith, to the empire-building publisher who perched his own Shangri-La on a private mountaintop, to innovative California surfers who re-envisioned an ancient Hawaiian tradition. All these adventurous spirits share one thing in common: a willingness to go beyond what is familiar and safe. For centuries, the American West has been a wild haven for those willing to reinvent themselves and risk fulfilling their dreams.
When I got into skydiving, it was such a thrill. I found myself just wanting to tell everybody the story of what it's like up there. And I found the best way to take people up there with me was with a camera.
Like other true innovators, Troy Hartman and Joe Jennings have conjured both careers and high-flying lifestyles out of thin air. While Joe and Troy earn their livings filming aerial stunts, they find the truest expression of their talents as a sky surfing team. Sky surfing is a competitive two-person sport, judged both on Troy's performance and Joe's free-fall camera work.
Right here, where I'm coming over the top, I had no idea you were going to pull that spin. That's why I was cracking up.
Yeah, I didn't know what you were doing on that.
Well, if you need me out there as a crutch, I'll go ahead and
spin, and stop.
Troy and I dirt dive our routines on the ground before we go up in the air. At 150 miles an hour, things are happening so fast, there's just no way to rehearse it in the sky.
And hit it.
3, 2, 1, go!
Get a perfectly clear day over San Diego and you get that good chemistry going in the air between Troy and me. It's just this incredible sensation.
If that's all, well, there is. Oh, to steal your heart away. Oh, to steal your heart away.
What makes the West such a melting pot for intrepid dreamers such as these? It can only be that a land of such immense geographic extremes and pristine natural wonder was a crucible destined to shape a culture all its own. Dreams can have no limit in a land where only 80 miles separate Death Valley, the lowest point in the Western Hemisphere, from Mount Whitney, the highest peak in the contiguous United States. Here near Palm Springs, even the desert cradles perpetual streams that nourish the world's largest palm oasis. In this realm of contrasts, kelp forests grow 3 feet in a single day, while giant sequoias have inched skyward for 3,000 years. But the ultimate treasure lay beneath the soil, waiting to lure the adventurous. With sightings of precious yellow metal, by 1849, the gold rush was on. Men and women of every ethnic background poured in by the thousands, each one driven by the dream of untold wealth. Even when the gold thinned out, the dream chasers kept coming. For here, if you didn't like where your past had led, there was plenty of room to invent a new future. Later visionaries saw California's perpetual sunshine and wide open spaces as the perfect stage for a burgeoning new industry: the movies.
And cut.
By 1915, Hollywood dream makers had begun an explosion of cinematic art and technology that continues to echo throughout the world's imagination. Los Angeles became host to one of the most viewed events of all time, the Academy Awards. Have you ever dreamed of being a star? Here's your chance. Yet beneath the Tinseltown glamour, Hollywood fame and fortune has always been a risky business. When Walt Disney got off the train in Los Angeles, he had $29 in his pocket and a desire to touch us all with his imagination.
Walt had been trying and not doing all that well in Kansas City at being an animator. And he knew Dad was out here, and he just said, "I'm coming out. We're going to set up the Disney Brothers studio." And it was a really, really tough time for him. But out of that came Mickey Mouse.
But making Steamboat Willie, the world's first sound cartoon, was so risky, Walt had to sell his car to finance the recording session.
It opened in 1928 and was just a smash hit.
Yet he never stopped looking for new ways to share his dream.
When I tell my grandchildren how Disneyland started in an orange grove just like this one, they can hardly believe it. Of course, when Walt first had the Disneyland idea, everybody thought he was nuts, including my father most of the time, I think. But once Walt had a dream, he was never afraid of taking a risk.
Today, the dream that began in a sun-washed orange grove lives on, sparking imagination in children of all ages.
Look out! Here we go!
While Disney found the edge of experience in his studio, surfer Mike Doyle found it in the mountains. When he clamped two boots onto one wide ski in the late 60s, he called his invention the mono ski. Today, snowboarders like Brian Iguchi call it their springboard to adventure.
When my friends and I get together, there's just this feeling that you're going to do something better or different or steeper than you did before. The snowboard revolution is definitely pushing the envelope for skiers too.
Few places have instilled the adventurous with such reverence as the crown jewel of the High Sierra, the Yosemite Valley. Yosemite and the Sierra Nevada are home to the world's largest living thing, the giant sequoia, found nowhere else on Earth. The only survivors of their kind after the Ice Age, these magnificent giants have been rooted to these slopes for over 3 millennia. As tall as a 30-story building, the scale of a sequoia is hard to grasp. Early settlers' first impulse was to cut them down. At least one far-sighted adventurer had a different way of looking at things. John Muir once rode out a mountain windstorm high in a swaying fir tree, just to observe the forces of nature from the tree's point of view. This unusual man used his pen against those bent on exploiting the wilderness. Muir's ideas prompted the founding of Yosemite National Park and inspired President Theodore Roosevelt to launch lasting environmental legislation. Following Muir's footsteps is botanist Dr. Steve Sillett. Sillett and graduate student Jim Spiegler hope to learn the secrets of the sequoia's longevity in an effort to ensure its survival for centuries to come.
Jim and I plan to camp here for 4 days if the bears don't chase us out, and our goal is to climb and map the crown of the Washington tree. No scientists have been to the top of this 3,000-year-old being till today.
I think he missed.
That was close, though. fire a rubber-tipped arrow over a sturdy branch as high in the crown as possible. Get the arrow over the branch, you drop it to the ground and tie on a 1/8-inch nylon cord, reel that in, and then you use that cord to pull over the climbing rope. Well, for me, tree climbing does a lot. It's my main form of intellectual activity. I mean, it's where I do my science. It's also a source of spiritual renewal when I get into the old growth canopy and see the world from up there. And it's great physical exercise. I mean, it does just about everything but the emotional side of life. Once you get up into one of these giant trees, it's really nice to not have to go back to the ground if you want to study another tree. So we rig these traverses up as a way of quickly going across. In the ancient forest, each tree crown is unique. So I was very excited to find out what was going on in the crown of this giant tree. And I climbed around the one side of the trunk and saw this vast pit opening up. So I got the rope set to the top of the tree and threw the rope into the pit. It was kind of an eerie feeling. I didn't know what was going to be in there. We've seen spiders, beetles, millipedes, bats, whatever. A lot of these trees have been hollowed out by fire, but this was something different. I mean, here was a pit opening up into the heart of the tree with no entry point from below. Descending into the pit is like going back into time. The deeper you go, the older it gets. 100 feet down, you're touching wood that was growing when the pyramids were being built. I kept going and going and going, and it kept narrower and narrower, and I was just like, well, I might as well. Eventually it has to stop, right? And I rappelled in and sunk my feet, and they sunk into this duff, spongy, and it was wet and moist and kind of smelled good down in there. I like the smell of rotting wood. I don't know why. Then I turned the headlamp off and looked up. And the light, the hole, is tiny. And you're 120 feet down in this pit in the heart of the second biggest tree on the planet. Oh, it was awesome. This sample's from the bottom of the pit. Heavily decomposed wood, probably from a brown rot fungus.
Wow. This looks like
But this stuff is from the crack, and it's much darker. Look at this stuff. Look how tight the grain is. It's almost forming a humus.
Bet some of this
It's probably 3,000 years old. I'm hesitant to say it, but it's true. It's such a spiritual experience to be in these groves. You see trees 3,000 years old, and you're up inside their crown. It's a very calming effect, and it's an experience that it touches you deeply. think it needs to be made clear that the ancient sequoia trees are sacred. It's a sacred resource. And the best we can do is be stewards of their habitat. You look out over the giant dome-like crowns of the giant sequoia. They're like mountains. But the other species, like the white fir, are like blades of grass. And when you're up there and you look from one dome-like crown to the other, it just kind of blows you away. And everything else just seems to be so ephemeral.
Man's best creations can be just as awe-inspiring as nature's. In the midst of the Great Depression, California's swelling population demanded a new western link, the Golden Gate Bridge. Until the moment it was completed, many of the nation's bridge builders said it couldn't be done. One risk-taker believed otherwise. Joseph Strauss was an engineer with a vision that spanned into the future. When work began in 1933, Strauss's obsession with worker safety initiated the world's first use of the construction hard hat and a steel net to catch the less sure-footed. Like the towering sequoia, the Golden Gate is worthy of our continual stewardship. That's the job of ironworkers like Bill Owens and Joe Van Bon.
It always gets a reaction every time I tell somebody I work on the Golden Gate. There's just something about it. I don't know if it's the color or shape. There's a lot of bridges in the world, but there's only one Golden Gate.
Along with the West's growing population, bridge traffic increases. As with most natural wonders, a bridge can last a long time with proper care and respect.
I guess I like being part of preserving the Golden Gate. I jumped through hoops to get this job. To some, it seems dangerous, but I'll never give it up.
Despite increasing human presence on the coast, remote beaches still exist, daring all who seek the edge of experience. Surfers like Jeff Clark train for the challenge.
Everyone's nightmare is a wipeout at Mavericks. The wave will hit you with so much power and drive you so deep, and you really don't know how long you're going to be down there. You need to preserve your air to preserve your life. I practice holding my breath in the shower, driving to Mavericks, the bottom of a pool. I'm always holding my breath. Mavericks is in 52-degree water. It's very cold. Training yourself to relax and be calm under those conditions is key to your survival.
For 40 years, surfers scoured the Pacific coast searching for the perfect wave. All the while, Mavericks, one of the ocean's greatest monsters, was breaking just 30 miles south of San Francisco, waiting for Jeff to discover it.
Off in the distance, here's this giant peak, and it's a perfect wave. I said, Brian, look at maps. It's not a question of whether we're going out or not. We're going. And he goes,
This is where I draw the line. I'm not going out there with you. I'm gonna sit here on the cliff and I'll watch you and I'll tell the Coast Guard where I last saw you.
For 8 years, Jeff rode this break alone. A true maverick. On waves like this. And when one of these Goliaths swallows you, you can only be spit out in the boneyard. A frigid cauldron of riptides and turbulence threatening to sap your strength as you fight against being swept onto the rocks. Champion surfer Mark Fu died here beneath a killer wave that drove him to the bottom. A wasteland of caves and stone arches just waiting to snag your board. Or you.
If you can make peace with Maverick's power, it's the best place in the world to surf. "50 miles down the coast, sardine fishermen once made monster hauls at Monterey Bay. Until 1946, when climate shifts and overfishing caused the collapse of the fishery. Monterey's storied Cannery Row became a ghost town. But one risk-taker saw a chance for replenishment. David Packard was a technology pioneer who started another kind of gold rush just north of San Jose, in a region now known as Silicon Valley. With a $55 million grant, Packard turned this abandoned fish cannery into the Monterey Bay Aquarium, a center for marine life preservation. Increasing human impact on ocean life has made the aquarium's efforts to restore native sea otter populations all the more crucial.
Good boy. Our goal is to return all orphaned otters to the wild. Caring for these animals is an intensive, demanding job. But let's face it, it's pretty hard not to love an otter.
Once, 30,000 sea otters swam in Big Sur kelp beds like these. Today's otter population hovers near 2,000 and requires our continual vigilance to survive. Aquarist Sue Campbell swims daily with this orphaned otter pup, a model surrogate mom.
Well, as it turns out, they do depend on their mothers a lot to reinforce survival instincts in their first few months of life. They have a strong natural propensity to bond. Once that bond is there, we're ready for the real thing. When you take a pup out in the open ocean for the first time, It's like taking a baby bird out of the nest and saying, let's go fly.
Splish splash, I was taking a bath. Long about a Saturday night. A rough dog just relaxing in the tub, thinking everything was all right. Well,
There's a part of me that is still amazed that it works. I mean, a human can make a direct connection with these incredible creatures and really give them the start they need.
it was a splishing and a splashing, breathing with the feeling, moving and a grooving, rocking and a rolling. I sure am having fun dancing in my bathtub. Well, I was rolling and a strolling, breathing with the feeling, moving and a grooving, splishing and a splashing. Woo, what a mess! Who's gonna clean this up? Hey, moving and grooving.
They're usually ready for the wild when they reach 7 to 8 months. By then, after swimming with them nearly every day, you get pretty attached. When the time comes to say goodbye, it's a day of mixed emotions. You always wonder how they'll do on their own. Sometimes they're not ready and come swimming right back to you. But most of the time, they just swim away. But more than anything, it feels really good to put another wild otter back where it belongs.
For centuries, the West has beckoned risk-takers willing to test themselves for a reason. John Muir, Walt Disney, David Packard, Steve Sillett, Sue Campbell, Jeff Clark. They and others like them have found something here they care enough to take risks for. If the West is to continue to accommodate our dreams, it needs other visionaries, willing to assume responsibility for our impact on the land.
The BBC otter you're looking at is...
People like Julie Packard, who continues her father's tradition, teaching tomorrow's generation of the ocean's fragile balance. And Pam Delaney, who helps generate clean energy in the desert sun. In Napa Valley, far-sighted winemakers led by Robert Mondavi now practice biodynamic farming without toxic chemicals. On Catalina Island off Long Beach, biologist Dr. Peter Sharp prepares bald eagle chicks hatched in captivity for return to the wild.
In 1980, there were no bald eagles left in Southern California. So without our help, they wouldn't even be here.
Restoring Catalina's bald eagle community is also the dream of Native American environmentalist Dana Prieto.
My son's Indian name means little eagle. So saving the bald eagle has especially personal meaning for me. As soon as the chick is old enough, timing becomes critical. We have to get them back to the nest quickly. 2 months ago, Peter removed the eggs from the eagle's nest because pollutants caused their shells to be thin and fragile. The eggs were then flown to a special incubator in San Francisco, where they were carefully hatched.
The funny thing is, I'm not real crazy about heights. I've never even been in a helicopter before my work with eagles.
Peter removes the plastic eggs that we left last February and replaces the newly hatched chick. Now it's time to let nature take its course. When the eagle mother returns, she'll think a miracle's happened.
Every time I see the adults accept a chick, it makes me feel like a proud parent. It reminds me that caring about the wild is one thing, caring for it is another.
Many Native Americans believe the eagle is a soaring messenger who lifts our prayers to the heavens. Today, every young eagle we save carries on its wings a simple truth. There is no risk too great when preserving the Earth's natural wonders, and no end to the dreams those wonders will inspire.